Hey, welcome everybody to the first ever episode of MLE Open Net. We're bringing a talk show to you now because why not? Keeps you updated on all that's happening in the league. We even got our own little ticker tape. Like, how cool is that? We're going to the whole draft order, starting with Foundation League, starting down there. PL, you're going to have to wait like an hour and a half to get to yours. So, without further ado, I've got my co-hosts here with me, Luke and Flips. Both of y'all say hi.
Hello, everyone.
What up?
Okay, well, not at the same time. Okay.
You go ahead, Luke. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. What up, y'all? Kind of excited to start this off. We've been kind of working on this for a bit, so I'm kind of intrigued to see how this goes. A lot to talk about, I guess, before the season even starts.
Yeah, well, this is officially what I would like to say, if I may take the liberty of myself saying, this is the first landmark of the start of season 14, because the draft is just a couple days away, if you don't count today or the day that it's on, because we're just impatient like that. So we're gonna just move right into it. The draft is here. The picks are in. The draft is locked in. I still see teams trying to make transactions, so quit making transactions so that our ticker tape is accurate. I've already noticed a typo in the ticker tape. Please nobody point that out. So with that being said, moving forward, we were going to have a short video announcement from LO to play for you guys to recap all of the changes that happened in between seasons 13 and 14. But unfortunately, with so much going on with the draft coming up, everybody's extremely busy. So we really didn't get a chance to make that happen, but we still are going to touch on a few basic things. So first of all, we'll get to the league redistribution, we'll get to the Premier League changes and all that, but first off, with that being said, how do you guys feel, right, about some of the changes that were made to the rule book and things that happened during the offseason?
Let me just go ahead and start by saying I actually really liked the idea of making the salary cap in every league move up 0.5 cap. I think it's just great. It's small, but it's a good addition for every team so that they can kind of have a little bit more leniency going into this next season, considering last season was so competitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that you're looking at when you get further down kind of upcoming season is kind of what's going to be the change, especially when it comes to rank ups, rank down. We always have that kind of end of the season change. This is the biggest I've ever seen being in MLE. You just have that giant jump of talent up another level, and as a result, we had people rank down, we had other people rank up, and it's going to cause a really unique kind of people will get to play with each other who've never really seen how the other person plays. So it'll be a lot of new play styles going head to head. I'm really excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, they really did shuffle things up a bit, but and it was ultimately the best decision. I know a lot of people, and I'll admit myself included, were especially with the forced rank downs, right? The biggest thing that I had a qualm with. The forced rank downs and the eligibility for playoffs. I didn't totally agree with that, but I see what they're trying to do with protecting competitive integrity, because that's become a bit of a problem in the past. So the forced rank down, at first, without the redistribution, I was really worried that I was going to get forced into FL, which I wasn't going to be too happy about, because all of my friends are in AL. I didn't really want to have to learn a whole new range of players. But it ended up working out for the best. My salary went up, not down. Great. I tried really hard. I'm still trash, but my salary went up. So
it's a good trash. It's a good trash. That's what we like to hear. It's the good kind of trash. Come on,
without a doubt.
All right, but with that, moving, keeping forward with this, the forced rank downs. How do you? Okay, so I want to get your guys' opinion on this, because I'm trying to keep us moving quite fairly along. Because this episode, we're only going to run hour episodes for all of those in chat. We're going to kind of keep it short because we don't want to take up all of your night. It's a Wednesday night. You probably want to go spend time with your family and your dog and your wives. For those, well, maybe not your wives. For those of you who have those, but we'll move on from that. So, Luke, we're going to start with you. I want you to tell me your opinion. If you're forced ranked down, should that make you ineligible for playoffs? Yes or no?
If you get ranked down, it makes
you get forced ranked down, and the league said you are not good enough to be in, say, Academy League, and they put you in Foundation League, should you be eligible for playoffs? Yes or no?
For playoffs or for draft? Because playoffs
for playoffs. This was one of the big changes that they made in between season 13 and 14.
I did read about this. The thing is, I've been with being an ML and PL for the last two seasons. I've really seen a lot more rank ups than rank downs. But I definitely think you should be able to play. Because if the league ops are saying that you don't deserve to be in the league you're in currently, then why would you not be able to play in the league below you? NA that you should be able to play in whatever kind of form you can, whether it be playoffs, whether it be all the regular season. I mean, there's nothing that should be holding you back. Because I mean, if League Ops is basically telling you, saying, hey, or whoever's in charge of the point system says, hey, we don't think you're really good enough for this league, you have to play in this one. I mean, you got to make the most of what you have and try to prove yourself so you can go back up. Like you said, yourself fresh, you know, you could have been ranked down. And what would have done? I mean, some people would have probably quit and been like, okay, I don't want to be in this league anymore. But others definitely could have been like, I'm going to work my butt off and improve a ton so that I can get to that next, back to where I was. And going into that, I think that was what you need to make a good playoff run to show your case. And I think they should be able to play for sure.
Yeah, but this brings up the question of competitive integrity. So I'll ask Flips this. Do you think a forced rank down is a risk to competitive integrity? Because if the player that is being forced, do you think that, because if, from my understanding, from what the conversations that I had in chat, you would have to be so, if you weren't throwing, you would have to be so bad that you would lose under 30%, or lose over 80% of your games. I can do math, I promise. And do you honestly think that someone could throw that much without getting caught? Because the competitive integrity committee, wow, I can word. The CIC, we'll call them that.
Yes, the CIC
is not a proactive or proactive department. I'll use that word. They're not proactive, they're reactive. So they can only act based on community reports. So do you think it's likely or possible or whatever to have a player that has the ability to throw to the point where they can manipulate that system?
I think it'd be very tough for them, number one, but even given that, it would be tough for them. In my opinion, they're going to have a competitive advantage. I was in FL in January, and now I'm in CL. So I have seen the major growth between different leagues and how they work. And FL to AL is just such a huge jump in not mechanics, but as in speed, passing plays, and there's a few different things that are a huge jump. And if an AL person were to say get some of these skills and drop down to FL, I feel like it'd be really easy for them to trash everyone in playoffs. Same way for CL to AL, ML to CL.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it.
Now, I do want to come out and say, like, we're having an open discussion about it, but we do give respect to LL because they have to respect community integrity and they have to respect competitive integrity. Because yes, it is if you got to a point where you could go down to a lower league with relatively or statistically players that are not as talented or skilled as you, there is a way to abuse that system. How likely that is up for discussion, but I mean, mad respect for the absolute thought that LO put into all of this and how thorough this was, and that it wasn't an easy decision to make. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to slap rule 1.13-A subsection B paragraph C onto this and say that you're not eligible for playoffs. No, they actually went in and they had a discussion about whether that would make you eligible, because they came up with the same discussion that we did, but ultimately they decided that competitive integrity was more important than, potentially jeopardizing a team or potentially jeopardizing a single player's season. And that would motivate them to try harder, to work harder, to get better, and to stay in the league that they're at.
And add on that, like we saw, especially last season in ML, and CL, the amount of issues that showed up, especially late in the season. We had the Sabres incident, the Express incident, one other team I'm forgetting, but we had so many incidents, and just doing that causes more work onto the moderators and onto League Ops, who they're already busy enough. They have so much on their plate already. Having them have to do all that on top of it, it's just a lot. And, people don't realize, they're full volunteers. They don't get paid for what they do. They do this because they enjoy it. They want to help this community grow and develop. And this is a developmental league. We want to see people enjoy it. And even though I would say, there were issues definitely in the last 2 seasons, more than we've seen in any season in MLE, they're doing their best to kind of minimize it in a way where we don't have to worry about it now when we play, and especially get the playoffs where you're like, oh, great. Is this team sandbagging? Oh, is this player doing this? You don't have to have that mindset anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So with this being said, it kind of brings us into what we're one of the topics that we're going to talk about is the redistribution that happened during the offseason, where they took the top end of one league and pushed it up, and they took the bottom end of another league and pushed it down, and tried to kind of jumble around and play popcorn with the players a little bit. And ultimately, I think we all collectively agree that was a good decision. And it was paired with the aspect of, now your scrim stats are only going to go off of 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks, because they were finding that it was way too hard, especially in Academy League. And I've never actually gotten to that point. I'm 12 Sal, but that I've not gotten to the point where I'm on the verge of one league and another. They said that it was too hard for players to rank up into other leagues, and it was therefore the skill ceiling was getting higher in a league, and they were just getting better, and the mid was getting pushed down. So by redistributing the league, they kind of brought this bell curve to the salary range where your average player falls in the middle instead of your average player falling down to the lower end.
For sure. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah, definitely understandable.
Yeah. So, but I want to hear, we'll start with you, Luke, first. Do you think, what do you think let me word it this way. What do you think the biggest impact of the redistribution is going to be coming into the draft?
From what I've seen, especially from what I've heard about from ML and PL, the big thing is you're going to have some guys who really are going to struggle. Like, I've seen some guys in the scrims who just really feel like they're out of place, and they're just really struggling to fit in a lobby. And then on the other hand, you have guys who got ranked up in a league or got ranked out, and you're kind of like, oh, like, they probably shouldn't have been ranked out. Yeah, they probably need another season a little bit. And I think there were definitely some guys who I think they definitely are just as good as the top of ML, but I don't know if they would be good enough to make that leap into PL, because again, that's a big jump, especially in skill. So I think it definitely has some positive and negatives, because again, when you boost the top and lower the weaker side, I mean, that's going to cause some rift at the start of the season, before the season starts, which is why they're trying to get all these scrims done so they can fix any kind of problems before they happen.
Absolutely. And I feel like one thing that I wouldn't argue that this was awful for, one thing I would consider next time if we do another redistribution would be something where maybe you move all the top half down, and then maybe 2 weeks later, after everything is kind of averaged out again, you move the bottom people up. The bottom people down to the next league, and the top people up to the league above them, just so that you can kind of keep the average. Because something I felt was the average of each league kind of went from being here and here to like here and here, considering the large skill gap that there was.
Right. And so, that being said, what I noticed immediately right off the bat with the redistribution is that they, like you said, they moved people up at the same time as they moved people down. And my biggest question with that, and I won't say qual, because I agree with what they're trying to do, because it was the league that I was in, and I'll speak for myself, the league that I was in, I felt was really, really top heavy. So with what the issue that I had was the FL players coming into Academy League, that's a big jump. Not necessarily in terms of skill or mechanics, but between game speed and game sense and awareness, and just general. There's not a skill gap, but there is a gap between FL and AL as far as the average speed goes. So you brought up these FL players who had a culture shock for, oh no, now I'm playing really slow, I'm late to the ball, I'm struggling. And I saw some of these FL players struggle. They weren't bad. They were just as good as I was, but they had to learn how to play in Academy League. At the same time as they were trying to learn to play in Academy League, you had a dozen or so CL players come down from a league that's a gap between AL and CL, and they just absolutely, in the matches that I experienced, absolutely curb stomped them. And I felt like, well, there's a difference when you're used to playing 1300s, and I'm going to use numbers, for example, because I know rank doesn't matter, and I agree, rank doesn't matter, but I'm going to use it for a baseline. When you're used to playing 1300s, you're used to playing a certain way. You achieve a certain level. and then you come down and you play like 1100s on average, and you're going to have a lot better habits and you're going to have a little bit of an edge up on them. But then you throw a bunch of, we'll say 900 to 950, somewhere in there to 1,000 into the mix, and now you've got 1300s playing 950s, and I know that rank doesn't matter, but like I said, I'm just getting an average or just a generic statement for the sake of explaining it. And it was difficult for them, and I felt bad because you try to be constructive, you try to teach them all that you can, you try to be as supportive as you can, and you be that positive teammate, but you're seeing them struggle. So, Luke, what do you think? Do you think that the redistribution actually moved players up and down, or was it just like the players came in and then immediately went back to where they were?
I think the way that because you're really head on with a lot you were saying, but I think a thing that that happened as a result of all these people, of let's say a 1300 playing a 950, which could have saved you from ranking down. We don't know, Fresh. Okay, we got to hold on. We can't dog them too hard. It might have helped you from staying in AL. So, but also, I had a great example, actually. I talked to, when I was doing a captain's clash a few weeks ago, I played with Enigma. He was a really good ML player. I played with, for both seasons, I was in ML. And he talked to me about, when after the rank redistribution, he did some scrims against these guys who just ranked up from CL, who he really crushed them. Because, again, he was a 1700 going against guys who've probably only hit 1300. That's a big skill gap when you're playing guys who are champ 2 at the highest against a GC2. Again, that's a huge skill gap. And A on speed and B on mechanics. So that type of thing, a chain reaction of it is you're going to have guys who they weren't ranked out initially, but because they played so many players who were kind of shouldn't have been ranked out, they got ranked up as a result because they had such easy scrims due to the CL guys who ranked up. So I think there's a chain reaction to it that caused more rank ups and more rank downs. So I think as a result, it kind of caused in a more spread out league now for sure, because anyone who is dogging the CL players or anyone who's dogging the players who got ranked up from the league below them got ranked out. And that's going to allow the lower ranked players who did stay, they're going to have a lot more ease to play now. So I think there's a chain reaction for it that benefited both sides.
What about you, Flips? What do you got to say? What do you got to say on the matter?
Well, I would like to say that both of you guys have very strong points in everything you're saying, and I feel that this league redistribution really did accomplish what it was kind of striving for. It might have been a bit bumpy, and it could have been maybe a little bit better, but at the end of the day, I think that for this draft, everyone is where they should be.
You're right. And it does. I noticed a major improvement in the league. I feel a lot more comfortable playing with the players that I do. I don't struggle as much to kind of he has one play style and he has another. I feel like it's a lot more balanced and everything is more on par with what it should be. So this brings us into the next kind of segue, and this specifically we're going to zero in on PL, because PL got a major rehaul. They just knocked the whole house over and just built it from scratch effectively. And I know, Luke, you're in PL, so this affects you the most. So here's a hot take. Do you actually think that the saying "are players really too good for MLE" is actually true? Do you think that the players that were ranked out forcibly to former player, do you think that they were too good, or do you think that they were, do you think that they're RLCS quals? Do you think that they're CRL quals? Do you think that they're just a little too far above the league, or what's going on?
Yeah, this was a topic. Again, we've had this whole topics list for a whole week, and this is the topic that I really wanted to flesh out on. Because again, I've gotten to talk to a lot of PL guys. Because again, I wasn't in PL last season, so I didn't get to play with all these guys as much as guys who are currently in it, like the guys who are on the top of my mock when we get to it. And they've all told me their opinions that they're really against it. They don't like that they ranked out these players. Again, this is a community here. We're really friends with all the guys here. So when you kind of say goodbye and just throw them out the window, it's just kind of why didn't we get any warning? There was kind of this out of the blue decision where they didn't really ask around. And that was a big thing I saw from a lot of the PL guys when I asked about it. And My take on it is if you're too good, I think there's a level where they are right, but I think there was a little too far, my personal opinion. Like, I think like the comps and the deluxes, as much as I love Lottie Lettuce, like they were constantly getting top 4 finishes every season. I mean, the last 3 seasons, I think we had the same winners almost in every league, every time. And as fun as that is, for the players to get that competitiveness, I think as a viewer and as, a GM, it's just kind of like, where's the excitement in this? Like, we're just seeing the same players win every season. And that's where I think those type of players, like the comps and the deluxes and all those type of players who were really great players. I mean, some of them I know are B+, obviously comp was at World CRL and players like that. I think they definitely should have been ranked out. I do agree with that. Issue I had was the players like AdoCAD and Delta and not Delta, other players like that. And they got ranked out because they were on good teams. And I think that was more like, oh, you had a good team and you had a good record because you were playing with some of the best players in the league. Let's rank you out. And I think that was an issue because like some of the guys who ranked out, I don't think they've ever even hit SSL before, which is insane to say that they get ranked out with the guys who are competing at the highest level. So I think that there was some players who were too good, but they ranked out people who I don't think were in that category as well.
And right, and I agree with you. The teams that did better, obviously, because league matches have an impact on your salary, would have higher salaries, respectively, because PL scrims weren't a requirement. There was no eligibility requirement for PL previously. So the teams that did really well in the league because of players like Compton Deluxe, Lottie Lettuce, etc., the rest of their team would respectively have fairly good records and fairly high salaries. But at the same time, there's absolutely no way that LO can go through and manually check the MMR accurately of every PL player every time it happens. So what we kind of ended up was with a middle ground where LO discussed it, and I know B++ mentioned it at one point. He's not LO, but I had this discussion with him in the chat, was that they agreed that certain players who complained that they were ranked out when they were really in PL, but they're 15 or 1600s, or they were a 1500 when a 1700 was still playing, and they wanted a review, and LO accepted that, and they said, we will review you, and if your MMR or your rank is within play guidelines for a salary cap, then you're allowed to return to play. And I feel like that was a really good decision on LO's part, because PL, like I said, PL salaries weren't super accurate. They were there, but they weren't, because scrims weren't a requirement, scrims didn't really happen. So with all that being said, it is what it is. It happened. It's whatever. So all in all, it was a good decision. It needed to happen. It balanced the league, and now even in PL, with scrims being a requirement too, they have the perfect bell curve where the median player, I'm not going to say the average player, but the majority of players are in the middle, because they even out. You win some, you lose some. I think in PL, there's all of 3 20 salary players. And for the low end at 16?
No, 18.
18. At the low end at 18, there's only 4 or 5. So you've got the majority of your players are in that middle ground. It also makes it really good to build a team, because all of your players are the same salary. Are going to be similar, not the same salary, but they're going to be similar salary, because the majority of PL is a 19 salary by far, by a ratio of 1 to 3 or 3 to 1 or whatever it is. But there's 3 times as many 19 sals as there are 19 5s or 18 5s. So good decision. Do you guys have any parting words for it? Do you want any? I know, Luke, you were.
I was very talkative when we were doing our mock broadcast. I was very talkative on this point. I just wanted to add one little thing. Yeah, it's good that everyone's all at 19 and all that, but it really hurts for the higher level guys. I know Nitz won. Alfredo just got ranked up to 820 at salary. And it's going to be hard for them to get drafted because some teams, you can't draft all 19s and then a 20. It's not going to even out salary-wise. So there's only going to be a few options for them to go in the draft. But I think they're good enough where they will get drafted. So hopefully those teams will kind of make room on their roster so they can pick them up. So I'm intrigued to see how that goes for the 20s. For the 19s, yeah, there's just a ton. I mean, I was looking at the bell curve earlier, and I just still can't believe it's like above 50%. And hopefully that'll cause for a more balanced season. But again, we've seen in the past where one team just always, the top teams have been dominating. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. And I'm excited to really be a part of it because I haven't been a part of PL for 2 seasons. So can't wait.
All right.
Yeah.
So the time has come. The draft is near. We are there. The draft is in 2 days. If you don't count today or the day that it's on, because we're impatient like that. We tried religiously because we've been, as everybody knows, this has been in production for months to get this show up and running. But we have tried very hard to keep up with y'all's draft transactions as to who got what pick.
Some of y'all some of y'all are insane.
We tried to make mock drafts for you guys to put on screen so we could show you exactly all 96 picks of what players were going to go where according to the panel because we were going to work on it together. But y'all decided to trade draft picks up until about 5 minutes ago. So we're only going to go over the draft transactions right now, and then we'll get into our top 5 picks for each league and discussing that. So Luke, if you want to take this away, I know you did the most research on this. You wrote out a whole, I did
a whole document. This is all I know is, Ruben, I'm in your UR team, and I have some words for you. That you did some intriguing trades that caught me off guard, just flipping picks left and right. But I have a whole document with it all here. There were definitely less trades on the higher side. I mean, ML and PL PL had none really. ML was more of like the later first round picks because I really only took notes of the first round because those are really the important ones. And you kind of have some where like the big one for ML was, Haim game trade to the Shadow for pick 14, which I think is a huge steal for the Shadow. I think Haim's still going to be a top player. He was last season and he didn't get ranked out. So excited to see how that trade goes. Going into Champion, I think for Champ League, I think there's a lot of crazy trades in this. Knights trading up to number 1 was a really impressive one to me. It's the only league where the number 1 pick was traded. So I am excited to see what they end up turning that into. And if there must be a player in Champ League, I don't know a lot about Champ League, but they have to have a player who's so dominant that they're like, I need the number 1 pick so I can get them, or else you wouldn't be trading up for it. Academy is just insane. I kid you not. I just have so many notes on Academy. The amount of flip picks, mainly by Ruben, and the Express, it's just a lot. The big ones definitely for sure being the Hive who traded up, the Wizards traded up from the Express. The Express got a lot of later first round picks, which ends up working out because again, you kind of work around it and you can get an advantage out of it. So I did like to see what AL did. A lot of kind of flip picks into another 3-team trades, 3 league trades kind of worked out. And that draft is definitely the most one team doesn't have every pick in that. FL is the polar opposite. FL is you could tell he went all out for it. It's all the elite. Elite got the 2nd and 3rd pick and Foundation League. I clearly said, we don't care about anything else. Foundation League is the priority. They just train all their other picks out the window. And I am intrigued to see how that goes. I know for the pick as well, they gave up Tordad as well to the Spartans for pick 6, which ended up turning into the 2nd pick. So it's going to be intriguing what the elite end up doing with all this and how that kind of turns out. But I honestly, the lower leagues, way more active on transactions. Higher leagues, I expected more from you. That was the research I was actually excited to do, and you gave me none to do.
I would actually like to add in this that if we look closely, the Bears have the first round pick here in a Foundation League, right? And just like an hour ago, like we said, still trading till the last minutes, we have the Bears getting FL round 1 pick 10. So I could definitely see the Bears also being up there trying to do a lot for their FL team right now. So we could see some good competition.
Who did they trade that for?
Let me.
They traded it with the Knights. ML round pick 130 Round 1, 31.
That's not a surprise.
So
Yeah.
that means that in FL, there are 3 teams that have 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Out of
The
16.
elite-
Out of 16.
Out of 16 teams, 3 teams have 2 first-round picks. I don't believe that's happened before. Someone in chat, I've got it up. You can correct me if I'm wrong. 3 teams with 2 first-round picks. Now, this begs the question: how do you guys feel about trading away your picks in other leagues for first-round picks in first leagues? Do you think it's a wise decision, or said to put this on the players to do that?
That's a really good question. Just for the sole reason that Foundation it's a great league. I started in Foundation. I wasn't super good at Rocket League. I met some great people, and as a Foundation player, I think the best thing you have for yourself is communicating with the higher players of your team. When I was on the Hurricanes in FL, I had people from AL kind of talking to me, helping me throughout some stuff. Shout out to Janitor, who was like really nice to me and stuff like that. He helped me learn how to get better and stuff like that. So being an FL player is definitely a strong. I don't want to say foundation because it's going to sound like I made a pun or something like that, but
No,
it's definitely
do it. Chaos and the
it's
world.
definitely a good
Insane.
foundation for yourself coming into the league, trying to get better. And I think that teams really investing in their lower squads can help them in the long run. I mean, I came from FL to CL because I had some really good coaching from all the players in MLE. So I think that maybe that's what they're looking out for. That could be what the Bears elite and the elites and the other team. Sorry, I can't see the other team that also have 2 picks in here right now. What's the other team, guys?
The Lightning.
Yeah,
The Lightning, the
Lightning.
Bears,
That's right there. I
and
see
the
it.
Yeah,
Elite
that's
have
right.
2 first-round picks in
Yeah,
FL.
Yes, I could definitely see them just trying to build a strong foundation for themselves.
Absolutely. I first to go off what you said, Flips. Foundation is so weird for me because Foundation League, I feel like if you're top of Foundation, you just rank out so fast to Academy League because the lower end of Foundation is the biggest gap out of any of the leagues. Because again, Foundation is just anyone who's below this requirement, and that kind of causes a big skill gap. And if you're the top of that league and you play against a guy who's never even hit, any diamond or any of that type of stuff, you're going to have a lot easier time.
Let me bring this up in the middle of that. So everyone from FL will disagree with what you just said. Everyone that's been high in FL will disagree with what you said for the sole reason that when you have such a large skill gap and you have to deal with salaries that are lower than you, and I'm not much into the bot. I don't read into like all the bot code and stuff like that. But from what I've heard, the rumors and stuff like that is your ELO also changes depending on the salaries you play. Correct? Or am I
Yes, it
wrong?
does. Actually,
Yes.
that's correct.
Imagine being a 10 cell and playing a 6 cell. You don't get much ELO off that. Plus, that's the biggest problem with trying to get out of FL. A lot of my friends struggled with that because since I was new to MLE, I didn't have to struggle that much into getting up into ACAD League. But a lot of my friends were just hard stuck FL because of that.
Yeah.
So because of that gap, it really created a large top-heavy site, and a lot of the lower salaries just went lower. And the top salaries, if they lost one game in one of their scrims to a 6L, their ELO drops.
Absolutely. The only reason I do say that is because that's kind of going into, like, I agree with you. If you have one good player and the rest are all, average, obviously it's not going to be as hard for him it's going to be a lot harder for him to rank out. The issue is for me is that the elite of the second and third round pick, which I think are awesome. Back-to-back picks are awesome because you get the 2 players you want for sure or if you pick your first player, you ask him and say, hey, who do you want as your teammate? We have another pick right now. And you just do that to your advantage. And the only reason is if you have 2 top players that you draft, if they're both high salary, they're going to be very dominant at the start of the season if they play together. And if you go, let's say you go 19-1 or 18-2 after 4 weeks and you're just dominating, it's just destined to happen. That's just how you don't want to have one team just crushing everyone else because then you'll be saying, oh, these players are too good or something's happening. So, but going back to your question, I love the idea of trading for like picks and leagues. My one championship winning season was season 12 where the Express had 2 first round picks and they used it on me and Poobie, who ended up being the championship winning roster. And that's the type of thing I like it, because you're saying, hey, we want to win a championship. We're going to put all our eggs into this basket. And you're kind of saying, don't rank out. We don't want you to rank out, which obviously you don't have control of that if you play too well. And B, you got to get along with each other, because when you have two top players, there's a lot of ego that can get between saying, hey, I should be the starter. I should be the star. You should not. And that can happen as well. But I love trading at picks, like first round picks between leagues, because you're really going to see a lot more success with that team in the long run, because of the fact that they got two higher level players early on.
Precisely. But I would also like to add there that can be high risk, high reward.
Oh, absolutely.
In a way.
Absolutely.
In the manner of, when you get at these high level picks, these higher salary picks, they have a chance of breaking out and screwing with your team.
Absolutely.
So it's a high risk, high reward type of situation. Are you really going to get this person for the long run, or are you going to get this person and they're just going to rank out and kind of screw over your draft pick?
Well, that's the point. Back when I got drafted, they were like, "Don't rank out, please don't. We don't want you to rank out. we don't want that. Like we just traded all. We like gave up one of our leagues basically for you guys. So please don't do that." But yeah, exactly.
All right. So while we're on the subject of draft picks, we're gonna move right on into it. We got 15 minutes left to bang this out. So, Luke, I'm going to start with you, and then Flips, we're going to go to you for FL. I know with you being in PL, you probably have absolutely no idea.
I have no idea. I might just give y'all the floor so y'all can have an extra minute, because FL and AL, I really don't have much to say on it. I mean, the issue for me is I don't know what players are going to stay in. That's my mindset. When I look at FL and AL, my mindset is more of who's not going to rank out. Like, who's a player who they're going to be consistent in their league, but they can still be a top player, and I don't have to worry about them ranking out. That's what I look at for those lower leagues. So I don't really know who I would pick, especially FL. I don't know any of the players in FL, but I would definitely let y'all have the floor for those two. Y'all can take as long as y'all want.
All right, Flips, you got the mic. Who's the first overall pick for FL?
Oh, man, putting me on the spot here. I got to look again. So, as I said earlier, the Bears do have the first pick. And, talking to some FL people, I'm pretty sure that Potato Dactyl is going to go around first, because I think she has to choose herself, in a way, for this one.
Okay, I like it.
I think I'm going to go with Potato Dactyl as first round pick. Bam. And then we have the Elite coming in next. Let's take a look. I think the Elite could easily choose someone like Monster Jammers, or maybe even Danker Pranker. Right there, getting kind of like a lower salary. There's only 110 in the free agents list right now. I'm not sure if this is unupdated, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be good for a lot of FL teams trying to get people to move up, and they could draft a lot of lower sal people, and if their salary goes over cap, at least they already have their starters.
Right. I see lots and lots of 10s. Let me tell you my hot take. My first overall pick for the FL draft is going to be Dynamic. I played with Dynamic, really solid player. Don't know how he got to FL, poor kid, but he definitely a player that I want everybody to keep their eyes on, because if I anticipate I'm going to put money. Not really. I'm kidding. For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Hey, you can put money where your mouth is. Nothing wrong with that. friendly wagers. We could put some. I was gonna say balls, but I don't know if we have to sponsor those.
No. We can't do that.
We
don't
can't
have
do that.
sponsors attached
We
yet.
are
But
not.
hey,
Okay, we're good. It's fine. Okay, we'll figure something out.
I see Spike in chat say, "Okay, fresh." but and then Ruben, stop telling the other FMs the good players. That's it.
Yes.
We are chaos. We are here. First overall pick for FL is going to be Dynamic. We got Potato Dactyl, Dynamic for players to watch. Another players that are really good to look out for are One Net. Where did they go? Rua from the Sharks previously. Spike, definitely a player that I'm not saying that just because you messaged me in chat. I'm I'm legitimately being honest. I believe that it's a first round pick right there. Genuinely shocked that Spike did not get retained, because Spike made a huge impact, I believe, on the Wolves last season, if I remember correctly. But the name rings a bell. It definitely stands out. Those are going to be those. I think those are the good top 5: Dynamic, Potato Dactyl, Spike, Rua, and who was the last one? Swanson. That's who it was.
Swanson
Those are my top
definitely.
5.
Swanson just moved down from AL, if I am correct, and Swanson, without a doubt, in my opinion, when I played with Swanson, I did think that he was an AL ready player. So it is very surprising, and Rua actually, and it is very surprising to see them come back down. So I definitely see them getting picked up and making a dominant impression on Foundation League.
I made a blunder. The reason Spike didn't get retained is because the Wolves don't have an FL team. I done goofed.
That's the worst feeling. I've been talking about some of the PL guys
bad.
too. That just, it's like someone who was I know he was like one of like the managers on a PL team, and then their team didn't get a PL team. I was like, well, that sucks because you got to join another one now.
Got to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Academy League. This is my league. I've got so many hot takes. I'm sure this is going to be great, but we're going to start with Flips. We're going to start with you. Notable players, and who do you think is going to be first overall?
Notable players in Academy League. First overall, so let me take a look at the notes again. So we have a retention in Academy as the first pick, and the Blizzards. Blizzards will have the first actual pick here. And the Blizzards, from what I remember, were a solid franchise last season. They currently have they have one retention. They have JHex, a 15th. Oh, whoops, that's Master League. My apologies. They currently have Venturi and Face. They have 2 retentions right now. Solid players. So I'm going to assume that they're going to try to go a little bit higher here, considering they have a lot of cap space. And checking it out here, I would say QB. QB could probably be a first-round pick here as a notable player sitting here. Maybe even AJ Binky.
I beg to differ. I've got a hot take. My first overall pick. My first overall pick is Sniping Warrior. That's my first overall pick. You want to talk about the player that I struggle playing against the most? You want to talk? I'm no Psych Demon. I am not going to be the first. Oh, you said not him. I'm going to go like late 3rd round if I get drafted at all. But like in the 138th pick out of a 96 pick draft, it's going to be fresh. So
that's what I like to hear. That's the confidence we need. That's the confidence we need.
What team did you get drafted to, former player? So my first overall, and I'm sticking with it, is going to be Sniping Warrior. Definitely going to be a huge hitter in AL. I do not expect to see him in AL for long. So the first 5 picks of AL are typically going to be players that you're going to see move up to CL either halfway or late in the season. Because eventually they're going to rank out because they're going to play good in league matches. So with that being said, Luke, do you have any notable players that you want to mention? Because I've already ruined all of the draft. So
I have heard. Oh man, you know me so well. You can tell I just want to talk. I wish I could. I don't keep up with AL a lot. I have heard of the player you brought, Flips. What was his name again? Oh
QB?
My god. Yeah. I heard about him. He got mentioned to me by one of my friends who's in Academy. So I have heard of him, and he'll be definitely a guy to watch out for. But I don't have a lot on it. I think there's some really Academy is always like one of my favorite leagues because it's the most, in my opinion, talent like consistent. Like you see, like there's not really a big skill gap, and I don't really like know who's going to win anything every season. And I like that feeling because other leagues are kind of like, oh, it's between this team, and this team. Academy, I feel like it's always you don't know who's going to win, and the draft is not as big of an impact as it is in other leagues. So I'm excited to see how it goes and what teams really the confidence they have in their players that they draft.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
It's something that you're going to see. It's going to be very curious. But Flips, other notable players. We got Sniping Warrior, QB. Who do you think are 3 more notable players that you want to see
in Academy League still?
Yes.
3 more notable players that I would like to see more of. One of them is a friend of mine that I just brought in. His name is Grunt Rifle. He was in CL and just dropped down to AL. And he is definitely a fantastic player to look out for. He is going to be on everyone's roster. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do a lot of tryouts because he was just brought in and stuff like that. But I can absolutely see him making a huge difference in the AL series and such. Moving on from him, let's see.
How much did he pay you to say that?
Nothing. I kind of forgot he was in this league. Kind of forgot he was in this league, and then I saw his name, and I was like, oh man, I forgot he moved down.
We get that you want to get drafted, but being toxic to the other players here is not the way, my man. You gotta be the positive, promote everyone else, and then people will be like, I want that on my team. You're like,
exactly.
You can't do that, or else you will be pick 138 out of 96.
I am here to promote chaos within order. I am here to just have fun. So we got QB Sniping Warrior, Grunt Rifle. I think a couple honorable mentions for top 5 picks are going to be one of the new players that I run to. I'm gonna butcher trying to pronounce his name. Jaren J, Jrenj something along. Go look it up in the draft sheet. I'm sure you'll find it. But he's an EU player that came in kind of late in the offseason. Absolute bombshell of a player. Love playing with him. Love playing against him. He's definitely iron that sharpens iron. Definitely a player to look out for. So, getting closer, farther down the rank, we are now into your league flips. So,
yes.
We're going to start again. We're going to start with you. Who do you think is going to be the first overall pick for Champion League?
The first overall pick for Champion League is someone who I think that he's just beat me in every way possible whenever I would play against him. And even when I was on his team, it was just like I was not ready. So I think it's going to be Kylo. Kylo is probably going to be one of the first picks, if not the first pick of the Champion League draft. He is a solid player all around. He can get to the ball faster than you. He will do everything better than you. That is the definition of Kylo right there.
Okay.
I've heard mixed results about Kylo. He's definitely in my top 5, but if I had to pick one player that would be in the top 5 for sure, it would be Fallen. So for those of you that don't know, I'm not playing. Don't you start this with me. Don't you? I am not selling out. I came up with this before the stream, and we're doing it. I agree totally percent. The stats will back me up. You don't need to sit there and tell me that I'm wrong. Okay.
I'm sure what chat thinks of this.
I'm watching the chat right now to see what they think. OG says, who paid fresh? Selling players. So Fallen is not going to be the first overall, but he's definitely in my top 5. If I had to pick a first overall, the first name that comes to mind is Dubert. Dubert, I feel, is a highly underrated player in Champion League. Dubert has had a long history in the league. I know I see him around all the time. He's a very influential player to whatever team that he's on. Definitely something to watch out for.
Yeah, I have Dubert.
Absolutely.
Dubert is one of my top 3 that I have for Champion League. Because I've asked around, and there's like, every time I ask, there's always 3 names that always come up. Dubert, Shiro, and Jimmy G. Those are the 3 names I feel like I hear about the most. Like, oh, they're going to be top players if they stand. And I was actually originally thinking of doing Dubert, but the issue for me is when you're a 0.5, you have to kind of work your roster around it. I know the Outlaws do have a retention. Or wait, no, they don't. What am I saying? But like, they have to you have to be able to build a roster around a 0.5 player. And that's sometimes really annoying to do. So I don't think they're going to go that route. And I actually have them going with Jimmy G with the first pick. I think he is, in my opinion, I think he plays up to a lobby the best out of all the players who I've heard about and I've watched a little bit of, because I think you could put him in any lobby. He won't be the guy who you're like, come on, play better. You know, he's the guy who I think will be either the best or playing his role in the lobby. And I think that's what you want on a team. It's not someone who carries. You want someone who can be that kind of support player when your lower ranked players are struggling. And I think that's where he'll be. And I do like him as a first pick.
Absolutely. Dubert is a great player without a doubt. And I would just like to move on to another player real quick that I also think has the capability of moving into ML, possibly like within an easily beginning of the season from CL. And that is Tez. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Tez, but every time I've played against him, I've always gotten 1 and 2 because he always goes 3-0. All the time. Every time, he always goes 3-0. And he's just a solid player. He has got great mechanics, great communicative skills, and he's just always there for you as a teammate, and he'll help you out, as well as he'll let you guys win one, because he's going to win the other ones.
Doesn't let you in. He just lets it happen, just lets it happen, nice and easy.
Simple.
All right.
Obviously.
So, moving along, because we're almost out of time. We're almost done. We won't keep you guys much longer, but we do want to talk about this. Luke, we're getting closer and closer to your territory and farther and farther away from mine. We're moving on to Master League. So, for the either top 5 notable players, Luke, or who do you think is going to go first overall?
Yeah, the thing for me is like ML is so weird because like all the top players are just the guys who, in my opinion, should have ranked up but didn't. So my question is like, it's more of like, oh, should they be a high pick? It's more of, oh, are they going to rank out after week 1? And you kind of just wasted your first round pick. But as much as I think that might happen, I gotta go with this player because I think he's the best player in ML right now, which is Deadzy. I just think he should have been, personally, in my eyes, should have been ranked up with some of the other players who were ranked up. And he's just probably one of the more mechanical guys. And I could really trust him in a PL lobby if I wanted to. I think he's definitely going to be one of the top guys to keep an eye on. And you got to see if he's going to make it through the league too, because I think he definitely is going to have a high odds of being ranked out too.
Yeah, it's definitely high odds. Deadzy, actually, fun fact, on my United Rogue team, Deadzy is one of the NCS players. He's also doing the coaching for the FL team. So Deadzy, I played with him today. Absolutely amazing dude. Really good personality. Really love playing with him. And he's an absolute beast on the field. He hit a double flip reset, double tap off the backboard like it was nothing. I clipped it. I have it for proof. I swear. He's absolutely goated. So he's definitely not going to be an ML for long. He's a heavy hitter. But Luke, my boy, you are sleeping on my man Cryo. You are sleeping on my man Cryo.
Cryo's up there. I got him in top 10. I don't know if I put him in top 5.
No. Cryo is top 3 at least. Oof. Point blank. Period. You are sleeping on Cryo.
So there's only 2 top 3 picks. So good luck. But I got a 50% chance of getting that right.
Oh, but I mean, we'll see. We'll put money down on it. We'll bring it back next week post draft to discuss what happened, who got what players and whatnot. But you're definitely sleeping on my man Cryo. So, what we got? We got Deadzy, we got Cryo. Got me a couple more players. I got a bunch of ML players in my DMs right now. like, hey yo, what? But who are your? Give me 2 or 3 more really notable players that you think are top 5 in the draft.
Well, I go off of players who I played with in the past, and like these are guys who I loved watching them play because I think when you take out they struggle when you play against the guys who are super mechanical and top level, but you take that out, I think they're gonna really thrive now because they're the top of the group. They're not gonna have to be the kind of support player. So I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see how Tai does. I think I'm stunned he didn't rank out either personally, especially he was in PL, I think 2 seasons ago. And I'm also excited. And I also think, obviously, my boy Mike is my Ike get another chance this season. I think this got to be a season. I'm rooting for that man to get a championship so badly. And I think this is going to be one of his best seasons. I think he'll be one of the top 3 picks for sure.
Yeah, definitely keeping him on the list. Definitely going to be an influential player for the rest of the season. So we're almost out of time. I'm seeing that everybody's enjoying this in chat. So I promise the show will be back next week. But we've got one more league we want to talk about. It is the one. It is the only Premier League, the best of the best that the league has to offer. Luke, this affects you directly because this is now your league. I want to know. We're gonna start with you this time. I want to know who your first overall pick for the PL draft is.
All right. Well, I'm going to do honorable mentions first because everyone in my chat has been wanting to hear my opinion because I'm a very blunt person with my picks, which is not a good thing. I'm not saying that looks like a good thing, but it just happens. But I think the top guys who I love, Knuckle, I think is a great player. He's a good third man. You play him in the back, but he also has some offensive kind of surprise that you can bring out. And he's only a 19, so you could put that with a lot of different players. And I think he's going to be a fun dude who you can really play with, and he can really improve his level to the lobby if he needs to. Another honorable mention I think I really love is Kill. I think Kill, even though he's European, time zone's definitely a little hard to play with. I still think he's a great passer, great support artist, really good at kind of stalling time for you to make plays for yourself, and he's very unselfish. And I think that's a great thing to have in a player, and teams would like that. But number one, I definitely have to go with. I don't want to boost his ego any more than I have to, but I gotta go with Taylor. I think Taylor is the perfect number one pick this season because of A, his salary is only at 19, so you can put that with so many players, and B, he's a great personality with his mechanics. He has great mechanics. I mean, he's easily, in my opinion, top 5 on a mechanical level this season. I mean, I think I could trust him on defense if he was by himself in a lot of situations where other players I wouldn't. And the best thing is he has a great personality. I really think you can put him with almost any player from PL, unless they were just a jerk, which, again, we don't want that in this league to begin with. But if you put him with most players or almost any player, I think he would really elevate their game to the best. And I think he will be really the prime guy to get number one. I know a lot of the guys don't fully agree with me on that, but I just think he's like the personality and the skill together. Not a lot of players have both of them. It's usually one or the other, or one dominates the other. So I think he's going to be one who has both and will thrive with that for sure.
All right, Flips, I want to hear your opinion too, because you've been sitting quiet and patiently. I see you brimming with excitement because you've got a hot take that you want to give out. Who do you think is going to be either, you can give me notable players or the first overall pick of the Premier League draft?
Of the Premier League draft. You see, I never really was influenced by a lot of PL players just because they were such at a higher level than me. But I remember watching them in the, watching the MLE series and stuff like that, and kind of watching the Wizards PL team doing really well here. And one person who, when I was watching and stuff like that, and I kind of played with him at one point in time, was Lax Shark. He was just a dominant figure on the field, and at this point in time when I was watching, he didn't get the most points, but I felt like he still made a huge difference in the game. I know there are a lot of players out there that might not get like the highest MVPRs and stuff like that, but still make a huge difference with their team. And I feel like Lax Shark is like that, but even a little bit better because you could kind of see it.
I gotta cut you off, Fresh. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You're PL. Go ahead.
I love Black too. So like, I'm not saying this. I don't agree with that. I think Shark will definitely be a drafted player. I don't think he'll be a first round pick personally because of just how good that talent gap is. Like he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely better than me. But I think like playing scrims with him with a lot of the other players who are his salary, I think there are other guys who I think are going to just stand out a little bit more. Especially in scrims I played recently with him, and tryouts.
Technically, you would know better than I would.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely think he is on my mock. Don't worry, he is 100% getting drafted. I do believe that, but I don't think he's going to be a top pick option. I think there are a lot of other players in the running for it. Alfredo, been a new player, but up and coming. He's been amazing in my eyes. Really great defender. And then you also have, Jake Hen, a guy who also got brought up to me a couple times. I think he's a good player who he is a little more, he takes it very seriously, which I like that competitiveness of players like that. But I also like that he's going to be a guy where you give him the ball, he can make something happen. And you need players like that on your team. So there's a lot of players. I really don't know where the number one pick is going to go, but I do think there's routes that I believe teams will go with their picks once they make their first one.
All right. And absolutely. And I'll give you my 2 cents as to far what's going on. I think both of you are wrong. I think that both of you have got really good picks, but they're not going to be the number one overall pick. The number one overall pick is going to be Corrupt.
Corrupt
with a K. I see him all the time. I see him all the time in the rank channels. I see him all the time in the scrim channels. I see him all the time here doing this, doing that. He's all over MLE. Definitely. And, I didn't get a chance. I know he was on my list of people that I wanted to mention, but I went through and I looked at the stats and I kind of looked at where things fell and what happens with what goes on. And you know what? I think that I said to myself, you know what? Corrupt is a name that I hear all the time. It keeps coming up. And you know what? If a name keeps coming up, it means something. It means there's an influence there, whether that influence is just like a really good third man or a supportive second man or an absolutely cracked first man. If his name keeps coming up, it means something important. So, it's definitely something that I want everybody to keep their eyes on with all of this, with the draft coming up. We've got the draft order below us. I really hope the ticker tape worked because I spent 2.5 hours typing this out. It was I had to type out all of this ticker tape. I typed out manually by hand. There's the typo again, our MLE season 14 draft order, starting with Foundation League. So with that being said, Luke, Flips, It's been absolutely fun. It's been amazing. This has been extremely fun. I hope that everybody in the chat, all 130 of you still watching, have had an absolute blast watching this. We are going to bring it back every week. And I will say this, if y'all want to see Play of the Week come back as a segment, make it known. See what we got. We'll see what we can do. It's definitely something that we want to see come back for the players. We can't do sponsorships, but we do want to do and talk about what you guys want to see. So if you want to see certain topics talked about, if there's something you want to see talked about, by all means, say it. We'll find it. Don't DM us, because I'm going to have 131 DMs after this for the predictions that I put out tonight. I'm going to have, there are people standing outside my apartment with fires and pitchforks, and they're mostly ML players talking about cryo. So, that being said, boys, we got to wrap it up. We're already over time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you both for coming out. Thank you all, guys, for coming out and enjoying this for the first ever episode of MLE Open Net. You guys have been great. We will see you next week at 7 p.m. post-draft, and we will talk about whether or not Luke was right.
Yeah, I'm always right.
You're always right. You're wrong.
Bro,
You're wrong.
He was going on earlier about how he's always right and stuff like that. So now we got to check it out.
I swear to God, I'm not that type of person. It depends on what the topic is. If it's football, I might be that person. But not.
Okay, well, this isn't football. This is car soccer.
This is
very big difference.
Exactly. You're not on that topic right now.
Car soccer league.
I need to add one more point, because I actually did like the corrupt pick you had. The only thing for me was last night at like 2 a.m. he was pinging trying to get his last scrim points because he wasn't eligible. So hopefully he became eligible, or else I think you're wrong already.
My DMs rip. My DMs is full of ML players saying cryo ? All right.
You got to please the people. You got to please them, but in a way where you can tick off everyone at the same time. You only tick them off. You didn't please them. Except Cryo. Cryo's loving you right now.
Cryo loves me right now. Cryo will buy me DoorDash. I'll shoot you my Venmo in a little bit, Cryo. But that's it for us. We're all done. We will see you next week at 7 p.m. post-draft. See you then.
Later, everyone.
Goodbye.